mortified to show my fear in front of strangers. But I was handling the climbing just fine, with no tears or pleas for mercy. I was even managing, as I sometimes did, to enjoy it. When I made it to the top, I popped out onto an open, frozen plateau with a sweeping view all the way back to the highway. I took a selfie with the vista behind me and then sat down in the sun to eat my lunch, feeling proud and satisfied. Around 2 o'clock, Carrie found me and suggested that I be one of the first to start making my way back down. I would likely be among the slowest. I agreed. Descending involved a series of rappels, tying into a secured rope and then lowering myself by hand down the ice walls. I had never tried rappelling. The gang had taught me the basics the night before in the hotel. They'd hitched me to a rope tied to a post in the hallway, and I'd walked backwards across the linoleum, feeding the rope through my harness as I went. Of course, that lesson had taken place on a horizontal surface. Still, I was feeling good, feeling ready. Carrie got me set up, and I steeled myself to walk backwards off the edge of the plateau and down the icy face of my most recent climb. The first rappel went well. I was able to laugh after I lost my balance, failed to brace myself with feet wide, and swung sideways into the ice. The second one was okay too. The third was trickier. I had to make my way along a curving tunnel of ice, and again I lost my footing and swung hard into an ice wall, dangling helplessly on the rope, banging my elbows and knees. I swung and fell again as I neared the bottom of that rappel, and I slid down the rope and landed in a heap, the ice axes I'd hung on my harness digging hard into my sides. Now I was embarrassed and in pain. I had a quick little cry there, tangled in my gear at the bottom of the rope, and then I picked myself up and moved out of the way so someone else could follow me down. I struggled through 2 more short rappels, but my mood had become grim, and my control only deteriorated further as I descended. The afternoon was cooling off as sunset approached, and all that swinging and slamming had soaked me with water from the sun melting the ice through the day. I was cold, hungry, and exhausted. I was not having fun anymore. At the bottom of the last rappel, I sat down off to one side, away from the others, and cried, trying to hide my face. I ate a Snickers bar I'd been saving. Chocolate almost never fails to cheer me up. But it only helped a little. We still had a long way to go to reach the cars. When everyone had arrived at the bottom of the last rappel, we bunched together to head down the walkable, unroped portion of the route along the frozen creek. As the group began to head down in 2s and 3s, I stood on the edge of one of the low ice bulges I'd stepped up without difficulty that morning. There was maybe a foot and a half between the flat surface I stood on and the next flat section of ice. All I had to do was reach out with my boot and step down. I stared at my feet, but I couldn't make them move. I kept picturing myself stepping down and my crampons failing to catch in the ice, my foot flying forward like I'd stepped on a banana peel in a cartoon. From there, I watched my body collapse, slide down the first ice bump and then the next, picking up speed, sliding and sliding down every frozen rise all the way to the bottom. I couldn't do it, said a voice in my head. I would fall. I would die. Some irrational force had taken over my body. I couldn't breathe properly, couldn't move my limbs. A tiny part of me knew I just needed to take one step down, that everything would be fine if I could only move my feet. But that voice of reason had been shoved into a corner at the back of my brain. Another voice was in control now. Ryan noticed my distress and circled back to reassure me. I heard myself tell him that I couldn't come down the mountain, unfortunately. The group would just have to leave me there, I said. I couldn't walk down, so they would all have to go on. I would stay right where I was. My flat tone said my plan was reasonable, but staying where I was as the temperature plunged and darkness came on.